Joining me today is Peter Shankman, who has been proclaimed a rock star that knows everything about customer service. He's a 6-time best-selling author, entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and podcast host of Faster Than Normal, one of the top ADHD podcasts out there. Thank you so much for joining us today, Peter. How are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. It is absolutely frigid outside in Toronto here. I'm not sure what the weather is like in New York at the moment. I'm sure it's similar.
It's a little chilly today. Yeah, just got back from taking the dog out for a walk, and I don't think he was too happy to be outside either.
I was not either. So good thing we are recording indoors, nice and cozy, right, to kick off our conversation that I'm super excited about because I know there's lots of insights for us to unpack. And kicking it off right away, one thing that's really exciting is that you are known for advising big businesses on how to hire and retain neurodiverse employees. So just to make sure everyone's on the same page and for my understanding as well, could you please define the term neurodiverse? It's kind of a new term, I would say.
Yeah, neurodiversity is basically how different brains work. So every brain has different cognitive functions and different cognitive skills, some of which are better than others. And a neurodiverse brain has certain skills that are off the charts amazing and not so great at other things. Neurodiversity does tend to include ADD, ADHD, executive function disorder, autism, schizophrenia, things like that.
Okay, interesting. And what got you passionate about advising these businesses on how to hire and retain neurodiverse employees?
Well, I didn't know I was neurodiverse until my mid-30s. I didn't realize I was massively ADHD and slightly autistic until my mid-30s. So I just assumed that I didn't play well with others. And I was told I didn't play well with others many times. And I had one job in my life. I worked for America Online for 2.5 years, and it was the best job ever because they let us work any way we wanted as long as we got the job done. When I left AOL, I came back to New York and took a job as an associate editor at a magazine. And there were 8 a.m. check-ins and 8:30 meetings and 9 a.m. meetings and 9:45 editorial meetings and 10:15 this and 11 o'clock that. And I thought I was in Russia. I'm like, this is horrible. I hate everything about this. I quit. I lasted 5 days. And so I realized that I didn't do well in sort of an incredibly structured environment, but I needed to make my own structure. And so that was in my early 20s. It took another 15 years or so before I finally got diagnosed with ADHD when everything started to make sense. When I finally started to understand, okay, this is why my brain works the way it does. This is why I can start a company and have revenue being generated in 48 hours, but can't remember to take out the garbage. Or, will show up at my girlfriend's office on a random Wednesday with 2 dozen roses just because, yet forgot her birthday. Things like that. And so once I finally understood how my brain worked, it was an amazing revelation because I realized that I could do so many incredible things and I could be so powerful and so productive, but I had to do it in a way that worked for me. I have some might call them quirks, but they're just ways that I have to work. I have certain life rules that if I don't put into play every day, my life doesn't go as well as I want it to. I'm up at 3:45 every morning. Not because I enjoy getting up early, but because if I don't exercise first thing in the morning, I'm just nowhere near as productive. The exercise gives me the dopamine, the serotonin, and the adrenaline, which my body doesn't make enough of because I'm ADHD. And so getting on the bike at 4:30 in the morning and cycling for an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours, sets my tone for the day and gives me the chemicals I need to then be able to focus, to be a better dad. So, the downside of that is I'm up at 3:45 and I go to bed like around 8:45. But one of the things I've learned over the course of my life is that as much as I always thought I was a night person, turns out I'm actually much more, everything is much better when I'm a morning person. I can't really recall any time in my life where anything good happened after 11 p.m., right? But some of the best success I've ever had has come when I'm up at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Everyone always asks, oh, how many, did you miss all the, all the cool networking parties? No, I don't miss any of that because the people you meet at the networking parties might know someone who knows someone who knows someone who can get you a meeting. The people you meet at 5:30 a.m. at the gym are the CEOs.
Absolutely.
So that was a game changer when I realized all that.
Okay. Very interesting. And I do very much respect your passion to understand it about yourself and try to help other people as well. Because even one thing that I've just thought about a lot is as we go through the educational systems, things like that, you're always taught to learn and operate in one specific way. And again, just a personal opinion, not like...
the whole reason that kids sit in classrooms with chairs and desks in rows facing forward is because 100 years ago, one room schoolhouses, they only had one room and they had to fit as many kids as possible. That's not necessarily the best way to learn now. We have the ability to learn differently, but we tend to do things a certain way because that's the way they've always done it.
Absolutely.
And that's not necessarily the most beneficial thing.
Exactly. Which I'm very happy to dive into how you are shaking things up. And speaking of which, you just started a new venture with your friend Jennifer Hartstein. So could you maybe tell me a little bit more about this and how companies can retain their neurodiverse employees?
One of the best things a company can do is to understand that different brains and different cognitive skills are beneficial for a company. Doing that involves allowing employees to work the ways that best suit them. For some employees, that might just be a noise canceling headphone. For other employees, that might be allowing them to get up in the morning and, get in the office super early before anyone else is in so they can enjoy the silence and work in quiet. For me, before any meeting, I'll usually find a stairs in the building I'm in and walk like 5 or 10 flights up and down. It focuses my brain. I also hold standing meetings. I very rarely like to have a meeting where I'm sitting down. Aaron Sorkin was onto something when the whole West Wing was walk and talks, and those are the best. I've gotten more work done with walk and talks. I have a friend who I work with occasionally, and we will literally meet at the 59th Street entrance to Central Park, and over the course of an hour and a half, walk the entire 6 miles of the park, and
awesome.
And just get more work done in that hour and come up with more ideas and implement more strategies. You have your phone, you have your I can dictate whatever I need to do, and I just get more stuff done then than in any other way. It's amazing. It really is amazing.
That's awesome. And so I guess why I also ask about retaining neurodiverse employees is because I'm thinking about how it's not just about the employees, but also retaining neurodiverse customers, because the essence of what you're saying right now is everybody is different. They have a different way of approaching how they learn, how they work, how they're productive. So do you think there's a huge difference between how businesses retain their employees and their customers that are neurodiverse?
There are. If you understand how your employees work and you understand how your customers work, you can reach out to them and interact with them in different ways. And, again, it's not a one size fits all thing. The majority of, not the majority, I'd say maybe 30% of customers are neurodiverse. So to be able to reach those customers and talk to them in a way that works for them, that comforts them, that makes them feel secure, that makes them feel seen and appreciated. Not many companies do that. So the ones that do are much more likely to succeed.
And what would be an example of...
Sorry.
No worries.
Gosh.
I'm sure the viewership would love to hear the dog. Very cute dog, I'm assuming.
Come here, Waffle. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what's an example of a company that's done that really well, do you think?
So we're working with Morgan Stanley right now. And one of the things that Morgan Stanley is doing is we're producing a series of events for them where we go in and they give us employees who identify as neurodiverse, and we ask them questions that benefit the company as a whole. So we did one a couple months ago called Help Us Help You, where we asked neurodiverse employees what's the best ways their managers can help them. What do their managers need to understand about them, right? And you're seeing an incredible reaction from the employees when they realize they're being heard, right? Because that's very, very rare in companies. When a company understands the way you work and goes out of their way to accommodate that. And here's the thing. It's not expensive. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It's not a cost fact. When companies do the littlest of things, I always talk about the concept of what's called curb cuts. And what are curb cuts? So after World War II, thousands and thousands of wounded servicemen and women came home from the war. And all the towns and cities across America were asked to make cuts at the end of every curb, at the corner, so that if someone was in a wheelchair, they could get up the ramp. If someone was on crutches, they could learn. Well, that wound up benefiting not just returning servicemen and women, but pregnant women, people in wheelchairs, delivery people, elderly babies, mothers with babies in strollers.
Yeah.
So it's the premise that a rising tide raises all ships. If you allow your neurodiverse employees to wear noise canceling headphones, that's great. Why wouldn't you allow everyone to wear noise canceling? That's what neuro inclusive is. It's about allowing the benefits for everyone, because they really do work. And when you have a happier workforce that feels listened to and heard and seen, they become a more productive workforce. And at the very least, I've talked to CEOs who are very, very blunt and say, well, I don't really know if there's value and if there's benefit, if it'll make, if this will make us more productive or generate more revenue. Well, it will. But if you don't believe that, how about this? Doing something as simple as allowing everyone to wear noise canceling headphones checks the DEI box that every corporate board wants.
Didn't even know.
Right. So if nothing else, you're being neuro-inclusive. Neuro-inclusive is a form of inclusiveness, right? And diversity, equity, and inclusion is part of that. Diversity can't just be skin deep, right? It can't just be about skin color. It can't just be about wheelchair ramps. Neurodiversity is huge. And to be able to allow for a neuro-inclusive workforce does so much, both for the company as well as for the employees.
Okay. And I guess, so taking that onto the flip side, right to the customer service side of things, what kind of strategies do you suggest to businesses for retaining their neurodiverse customers at the immediate touch points? Because I feel that there's a lot of companies that wouldn't consider that or they wouldn't really think about it. But obviously, even just based on what you've just said on something as simple as giving everybody these noise canceling headphones and how that can increase the output and productivity, let's turn to the customer side now. And what would you suggest as strategies for businesses retaining their customers on the customer service side, those immediate touch points?
Well, I'll give you an example. I worked with a company, a fast food chain. And when you walk into the restaurant, they had about 30 restaurants across the Northeast. And you walk in, it's a giant menu, digital menu with like 50 different items. It's constantly shifting and there are ads. And I remember I looked at that for about 5 seconds and I wanted to leave. It was for someone like me who's like, ooh, shiny, ooh, shiny, ooh, shiny, ooh, shiny. It was horrible. I took them out. We walked a half a block over to Taco Bell. We walked in Taco Bell, static menu, no ads. Here's what we offer. Here's the price, right? There's a reason that In-N-Out Burger offers burgers, fries, shakes. For someone the fact that what's funny is that fast food is actually as bad as it is for you. For someone who's neurodiverse, it could be the ultimate savior because you know what it is. You know what it's going to taste like. It always tastes the same no matter where you are in the world. It provides a level of comfort, which is fascinating. For someone who's neurodiverse, that could be like the difference between a truly horrible day and a day that you saved.
Fair enough.
But not if I'm going to walk in and see freaking ads on my menu, right? In digital lights. So again, it's about understanding the customer first and foremost.
That's actually really interesting. And it's even making me think about my own business and how we cater to all of that, because you have to hear these things and learn about it to educate yourself in order to go forward. I'm curious to know, what are some questions that you would tell, let's say for the listeners of this podcast who would be like Shopify business owners in e-commerce and all different industries, basically the idea that they're learning or they're trying to learn about how to retain customers in different ways and think about it. What kind of questions would you tell them to ask themselves when considering how much they factor neurodiversity into their practices and their operations and their customer service?
No one says you have to be, that everything has to change, right? No one says you have to
reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. No one's looking at that. They're looking at the simple act of being a little decent and understanding how how you can get the best out of your employees.
Yeah.
Being able to create oh my God, I'm so sorry. Waffle, being able to create a workforce that feels seen and feels protected and feels cared for, right? And feels like when they offer the best they can give to the company has their back.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. That's where you're able to create the magic, because you have a company now whose employees want to protect the company.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I loved so much about working in America Online was that it was a badge of honor to say that you worked there. Everyone knew what AOL was. This is back, you're probably not old enough to remember this, but the internet used to be AOL. That was it.
I heard about it.
We worked for the internet. I mean, people thought we walked into a room that, walked into a door that said the internet on it. But hey, it was amazing. And it was just such an incredible time because that was the internet and that's what everyone knew. And so to say you worked at the heart of the internet was incredible.
Magical.
And so to be a part of that and to we loved it and we would defend and protect the company, right? And those are the kind of employees you want. You want the employees who are treated so well that they love where they work and they are willing to fight.
Go above and beyond too.
Yeah.
I actually think there's a lot to say. We've had some guests on the show that always talk about you need to think about every aspect of the business when you're thinking of how you serve the customer. because the way that your employees are treated, the way that your employees feel is a direct reflection on the company culture and how you operate. So it makes a lot of sense what you're saying as well. The fact is, if you really like the company that you work for, you're proud of it, you wear it like a badge of honor, you're much more likely to treat those customers much better and think of new creative ideas on how to serve them better if you actually give I won't use the flavorful language here, but if you actually care. But I think that's a really nice way to describe it. So
Very true.
I guess last question before we go into like the lightning round, which is like the fun questions, is I'm curious, we've talked a little bit about how you can retain your employees, retain your customers. You can think about the processes of including neurodiversity in business practice. Is there anything to be found in customer data that can give insight into any potential neurodiverse traits? Like anything that a company could take a look into and try to understand a little bit more in their customer data?
The interesting thing about neurodiversity is it presents itself so differently in everyone. However, it's a really good question. Companies need to be studying their customers anyway, right? As it's one of the number one rules of selling. But you'll notice some customers might buy the exact same thing every single time, no deviation. It's hard to answer that question because, like I said, it presents itself so differently in everyone. But a lot of the best thing a customer can do, and keep in mind, I talk to companies all the time on customer experience as well. The best way a company can find out information about their customers is simply to ask them. We are becoming so much more of an audience now that's willing to talk about, especially neurodiverse, are so much more willing to talk about our diversity and what makes us different. 25 years ago, ADHD didn't exist. When I was in high school in the 80s, ADHD didn't exist. What existed was Peter, sit down and you're disrupting the class. And so now we have a name for it, and I can talk about what I have, and I can talk about the benefits of it. I've written books on the benefits of it. So, talk to your customers. They will tell you everything you need to know about them. Just listen.
I love that. And actually, just one quick more question, because I'm curious now. Is there any company that comes to mind right away for you that you're a consumer of that you think does neurodiversity really well, and understanding that and making sure that you're well catered for?
I don't know if they're doing it intentionally or not, but there's a store in the US and in Europe, and maybe even in Canada, called Primark. And Primark is a clothing store. And it's aside from the fact the price is ridiculously low, I could buy my daughter a semester's worth of clothes for less than $100. What's amazing is that when you walk in, the sections are plainly visible and labeled, right? So there'll be a picture of a man above the men's section. There'll be a picture of a young girl above the young girls section. And it makes life so easy, right? I know because the last thing I want to do when I'm out shopping or whatever is talk to anyone. I hate people, right? Most neurodiverse people, I love talking to people, but I hate having to talk to people. There's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
If you're on a plane next to me, unless you fake your death, I'm going to know everything about you by the time we land. I'm going to let you talk, but I don't want to have to talk to a salesperson ever. So the fact that I know, young girls, your size, done, let's go, is the greatest in the world. So again, it's anticipating your audience and knowing what they want.
Okay, great. And I guess with that, we'll go to our lightning round, which is our 3 quick, fun, easy questions. Okay. And then we'll end off on a piece of advice and we'll be on our way. So lightning round question number 1. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing marketing companies right now?
Attention span. The average consumer has a 1.7 second attention span.
Oh my!
You have roughly anywhere from 1.4 to 1.7 seconds to reach your audience the first time before and keep them engaged before they go somewhere else. They will stay if they are engaged, if you give them something to be engaged over. The biggest way to do that is to become a better communicator. Most companies are terrible communicators. I always think back to about a couple of years ago when I got an email pitch for a company. It was around Mother's Day, and I got a pitch that said, "Dear Peter, we know that working moms like you have it tough."
Close, but not quite.
Just be a little better, right? The bar is so ridiculously low that I don't even need you to be awesome. I need you just to suck slightly less than everyone else.
Okay, fair enough. All right, number 2, which I also think you should recommend your book, because I was just about to ask you what the book was that you wrote about ADHD. But the second question is, what is the best book about marketing or life in general that you would recommend to people?
Every 6 months I reread it. It's called They Can Kill You, But They Can't Eat You. Okay. It's by a woman named Dawn Steele. She was the first female head of production at Paramount. And
wow, cool.
It's her autobiography. She passed away way too young of cancer, but it's a phenomenal book about the rise and how she did what she did back in the late 70s, early 80s when Gucci was becoming super famous and where, Gucci had all their the G and the C logos everywhere. She created knockoff Gucci toilet paper and sold millions of rolls.
That's crazy. Yes.
So that's how she started her career. So it's those kind of things that I love reading about people
awesome.
who have sort of been told they're crazy and do it anyway, because that's sort of how I started my career as well. And toilet paper, but when Titanic came out on video, I had 500 t-shirts printed up that read "It sank, get over it." And I went to Times Square and sold 500 in 2.5 hours and made $5,000, and then came home, created a really crappy website and called a reporter from USA Today who ran the story on the front page. And I sold 10,000 shirts on the web and cleared about $100,000. So
that's crazy. Wow.
You got to take those chances.
Wow. I love that. Okay. And last but not least, who would you like to see a biopic about in the marketing world, and which actor should play them? That's a fun question.
Say how you broke up. To say it again.
Oh, sorry. The question was, who would you like to see a biopic about in the marketing world, and which actor should play them?
Oh, that's a great question.
My team comes up with good questions.
That's a great question. I mean, in the marketing world specifically, wow. I'd like to see a movie about the history of Barry Diller, because Barry Diller, not so much marketing. I mean, he started in marketing, but he was an agent, and he wound up heading Paramount Pictures. And he's just incredible guy, because he went to Paramount when they were like 2 seconds from bankruptcy, and everyone said he was crazy to go, and he turned it into the first $1 billion deal in the world.
Wow.
So, I've always admired him. I think that'd be awesome to see. I'd like to see a movie about Elon Musk where at the end he gets killed. I think I would see that 5 times. Like, and that the death has to be real slow motion, where you like watch his head physically explode, and there's no way he can come back from that. I would watch that a lot.
You might see the trailer on Twitter, then it'd be a whole crazy loop. That would be.
It's so sad. I quit Twitter. I was at one point back in the early days, I was the 49th most followed person on Twitter.
Are you serious?
Before the celebrities got on, and it was such a great place. And then he came in and he just, pardon my French, he fucked it up for everyone.
Yeah.
It's really sad. Really sad.
Well, when that movie comes out.
Oh, I can't wait. I would love to see that.
How it goes.
Yep.
All right. Well, with that, last question to tie our whole episode together is there a piece of marketing or life advice that someone shared with you once that has always stayed with you?
So in my spare time, I'm a skydiver. I have over 500 jumps. I'm licensed. I've jumped all around the world. I've jumped over the pyramids of Egypt. I've jumped everywhere. And you want to listen to old skydivers, because if they're old and they're still skydiving, it means they're smart enough to not have killed themselves in jumping. And so I was complaining once about the people. I'd go skydiving in the morning. I'd go to the drop zone, spend the day there. And all the people at the drop zone wanted me to stay and camp out, and tent, whatever. But I'd want to go home because I like, hot water and good food. And so I'd come home, and all the people I'd go have dinner with never understood why I'd want to go up to the drop zone and go skydiving all day. And so I complained, like, I can't find friends that really get me. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, "Peter, if you can't change the people around you, change the people around you." And that just sort of blew me away. I'm like, what great advice. And the other piece that sort of goes with that is, if you don't like where you are, move. You're not a tree.
I like that. That's actually a great point. Very, very simple, very clear, but fair enough. All right. Well, thank you so much, Peter, for joining me on the podcast today. It was an absolute pleasure. And thank you for all the insights that you shared. It was awesome to have you on the show today.
A pleasure.